Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Onwards and Upwards, everything a global healthcare worker needs to know about living and working in the United States. I am your host, Danielle Friedman, the Director of Special Projects here at AMN Healthcare International, where we are the only company in the United States to have both staffing through O'Grady Payton and direct hire through Kinetics USA. I'm going to say that again. We are the only company to have both staffing and direct hire options. And we have options all across the United States. Let's pull up that map of the United States where we have all of our different options. So wherever you would like to go, we are able to help you. So if you would like to apply online, you can apply at amnhealthcare.com/international. And our recruiters are on hand. They are ready, they are waiting, and they are excited to help you. Today, we have a very exciting show. It is our once a month immigration update. So we have our legal experts who are waiting backstage and they are excited to take your questions. We are going to be having a special segment called Joy's Special Segment. So you want to stay tuned for that. Our recruiter, Joy, our recruitment manager, she's going to come on. She's going to share some words of advice. And you are going to want to check that out. We are also going to have our legal hotline. That is where you can come on. You can ask your questions to our legal experts. They will be taking time to answer your personal questions. So please make sure to look out for the link in our chat. And we would love to have you ask your questions live. And then finally, we are going to have our clinical corner. So our clinical corner is going to be sharing tips on clinical when you come to the United States, getting you ready, up to speed for your practice. And we are very excited for our clinical corner. Let us know where you are joining from in the chat. We love to know where our viewers are watching from. I love to see everybody's watching from around the world. I love to see all the different countries. It is very exciting. We have been helping nurses for many, many, many years, and we love to see where our nurses are coming from. Before we get started, I have a special announcement that I wanted to share with everybody. I'm going to take a little bit of a step back and I'm going to turn to the side. So as you can see, special announcement, I am pregnant. So if you see that picture, you can see my mom, Tanya Friedman, who used to host this show. You can see my firstborn over there next to the sonogram. I am pregnant and very excited. I will be taking some time off, so you will see some familiar faces who will be hosting in my absence and covering me while I am taking some time to bond with my baby. All right, so I see some congratulations in the chat. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. I see we have some viewers who are watching from Sherry. We got from Trinidad and Tobago. Hello to you, Sherry. We have Nana from Ghana. Hello to you, Nana. We have Alice from Nigeria. Oh, lots of congratulations. Thank you all. I so appreciate it. So nice of you all. We have Takea from the Bahamas. We have got everybody covering the whole world. So lovely to see. All right, and one last quick announcement. So if you haven't already heard, in the United States, May is Nurses Month. So we just wanted to say Happy Nurses Month to our nurses, both in the United States and around the world. Thank you for all that you do. We appreciate you. We appreciate your love. We appreciate your dedication. We appreciate your passion for your patients. We know it is not an easy job, but we so appreciate everything that you do. So happy Nurses Month to all of the nurses around the world. All right, so we are going to get started with Joy's special segment. So very mysterious. Let's see what's going to be coming up. Waiting wisely. Let's bring on Joy.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Danielle. Hi, everyone. My name is Joy Bansag, and I'm working as a placement manager with AIM International for the past 14 years. However, I have more than 20 years of experience in recruiting international nurses to the U.S. So being said that, it means that I have experienced multiple retrogradations in the past. And believe me, it is not the end of your dreams. This is just temporary. So my advice for the nurses is to wait wisely and make use of this time as an opportunity to develop yourself, to gain more experience, to acquire skills and specialization, get certification. This will help you enhance your skills. Most of the hospitals also in the US are looking for nurses who are currently working in bedside. So if you are not in bedside, go back to bedside. For those who are already immigration is already in process, and you only take NCLEX, I suggest that um, take your IELTS and get your visa screen ready so that by the time your priority date becomes current, you are all set to go for consulate interview. Your priority date will become current anytime. Also, for those nurses who are planning to go and haven't started the process, planning to haven't started the immigration process, wanted to start but retrogression comes, do not stop. If you have passed NCLEX, send in your application to us through www.amnhealthcare.com/forward international, and we will be happy to assess you to start your journey even during retrogression. Remember, AMN can file for your green card now, can file your green card immediately. And lastly, as an advice, I want the nurses to remain positive and be patient. Do not be sidetracked with the current situation. Do not be sidetracked with retrogression. It is very important to make use of your time during this waiting period or during this retrogression. um, it is important to remain proactive, and be informed and optimistic. These are the characteristics that will help you, that will help our nurses not only manage their time waiting, but this will also prepare your future in the U.S. to be successful in the U.S. And again, um, trust the process, and AMN will always be here to assist you uh, throughout. I think I have said it all. I'll get back to Daniel. Thank you so much and have a happy Nurses Month, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joy. I think that is such good advice. I heard it earlier this week. I was doing the LaFora talk show and we had the admins come on. They were all sharing their stories. They'd all been waiting 8, 9, sometimes 10 years during retrogression, which can feel like a lifetime. And, it's very hard not to get discouraged, not to lose hope. And I think the main message that I took from that LaFora talk show was to wait wisely, as you said. So I think we have a little clip from Marvin, one of the admins in LaFora, which is a nurses group. And he is going to give a little bit of similar advice that Joy just gave. So let's play that clip.
And one advice to all Filipinos who are waiting, especially right now for retrogression, is that wait wisely. It doesn't mean that you need to stop you need to stop whatever you wanted to do in life, but rather you need to move forward and upward by developing your skills and talents. And then by the time you are here, you realize that there's a lot of things that you can do. You can even reach your fullest potentials. Just trust the process. And that's my story.
So as you all can see, so Marvin introed that clip. He did mention Filipinos, but LaFora is a nurses group that is open to all nurses. There's information, there's tips, lots of good stuff in there. But I think the wise words really stick true. You want to wait wisely. Make sure that while you are during this waiting period, you are doing something to better yourself, better your skills. When you come to America, the doors will be open for you. There will be endless possibilities, and you want to make sure that you are ready and you are set up for success to take advantage of all of those different opportunities. So once again, our words of advice for today, wait wisely. All right, so let's get started with our immigration show. I know everybody is excited to talk to our legal experts. Let's bring them out. Good morning, Chris and Mike. How are you both doing today?
Good morning, Danielle.
Danielle, congratulations. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited to have you both on for our once a month.
Mike just texted me. He wanted to show off his belly as well. on the.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
We're going to have a contest to see whose was larger.
I think I'm winning. I'm quite far along.
Yeah, very close.
Well, thank you both. I appreciate it. Let's take a moment to do some introductions. Mike, let's start with you.
Yeah, my name is Mike Hammond. I'm an immigration attorney in Cincinnati. Been practicing 30 years. I'm Chris's younger cousin.
All right, Chris, you're up.
And I'm Chris Masillo. I'm an immigration attorney also in Cincinnati. And Mike is not only a good friend, but he really is. It was my first and primary mentor in this area.
Thank you, Mike and Chris. They give up their time once a month to come on, share some immigration updates, answer some questions. We give them some toughies. So let's put them in the chat or come on the legal hotline and let's get their expert advice. So while we are putting the link in the chat for the legal hotline, you can click on that and come on and ask your questions live. Let's start with you, Chris. Can you please give us the update that we got about a week ago?
Yeah, so the visa bulletin came out. Yeah, that's right, Danielle. About a week ago, it showed essentially no movement for all the relevant categories, which was disappointing, but not really unexpected. Indeed, I think the expectation is in July, August, September, those visa bulletins will either show no movement or they may even retrogress, including a retrogression where the Department of State would list a U instead of a date in the category. If there is a U, that would mean that all visas for that category have been used for this U.S. fiscal year. As we've talked about a little bit in some of the earlier shows, Danielle, you know this, the U.S. fiscal year runs October 1st through September 30th. And so as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, all of the visas could be used. So if you don't see movement or you see a U in the next several visa bulletins, I wouldn't give it too much thought. It just simply means that that we are not going to be being able to get more visas this fiscal year. But come October, the dates will reopen. The big question then for everybody isn't really what the July, August, or September visa bulletins will look like. The big question is what the October visa bulletin will look like, since that's the first one for the new year. And, you know, making any sort of precise prediction on that is going to be extremely difficult. I'd like to think that it won't be any worse than it is today, and hopefully even a little bit better.
Okay, we'll take that prediction. Our fingers are crossed for at least a little bit better in October. We'll see what happens. Mike, I think this news can be disappointing for a lot of nurses who are watching around the world, and we're hoping for some movement. What would be your best piece of advice for those nurses right now?
Well, I think the best advice for the nurse specifically on a personal level is to just do what you're supposed to do and control what you can control. Whether that is, if you're just starting out, pass the NCLEX. If you're already in it, in the immigration process, pass the English test so that you can get your visa screen, continue to have bedside work experience, all those things that you can control, because this immigration part you can't control. To kind of put a positive spin on the potential that Chris mentioned of it, the category going to you, is it may appear at first glance that that's very negative. In reality, as an industry, we would view that positively, because the U.S. government uses a system of use it or lose it. So if they gave out 10 green cards a year, at the end of the fiscal year, they'd only given out 8, and those 2 they were allowed to give out are gone away and they can't be given out now. So those were lost opportunities for 2 individuals. When the category goes to you, that means we know they've given out every single one of the visas, green cards that they were allotted. So we can look at that and go, hey, that's a good thing. The system is working efficiently and handing out everything they possibly could hand out. So I think we can view that. There have been many years where there's been many visas that have been allocated but not actually issued. That's when there's a major system breakdown. So I think we can look at this potentially positively as well.
Oh, that's very interesting. I didn't understand that. So just to reiterate, you're saying if there's a U, it's actually could be looked at as a positive because that means the government is working efficiently and they have issued all of the potential visas that they were allotted.
That is correct. That means
Okay.
the family ate all the pie.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
All
And then we're going to wait until October for a cross our fingers, hopeful reset.
correct. That's
Think.
right.
We'll see what happens. That's what we think. Okay. Chris, are there any updates on the Healthcare Worker Resilience Act that you can share?
No, Congress is generally in the summer. It doesn't really do much. We're also ramping up here in America for what's going to be an election that probably nobody's really looking forward to in this country, to just see President Biden and Trump probably just throw stones and arrows at each other. That's the bad news. The good news is there is some talk in Washington, D.C. So the election here in the United States is early November, and then the new president will be inaugurated January 20th, or President Biden will continue in office, and there will not be a new inauguration. And then the U.S. Congress, even though the election's in November, the U.S. Congress actually still exists, the current Congress, for about 2 more months until January 1, and then the old Congress extinguishes and the new Congress begins. The reason I say that by background is there's a period between the first week of November here in the United States and New Year's, that roughly 2-month period, which is often called the lame duck period. And sometimes controversial or unusual legislation gets passed during that period. And I don't want to get anyone's hopes at all up, other than to say that that's really the next window where something like the HWRA, or indeed the HWRA itself, could conceivably move. But again, immigration legislation is extremely difficult in the United States. But that's really the next window that we should be looking at.
Okay, all right. Some good background, some good information for everybody who's watching. Thank you, Chris. We are now going to open our legal hotline. So once again, the legal hotline is your opportunity to come on live. We would love you to show your face. Let us know where you have been watching from. We are putting the link in our comment section. And this is your chance to come on, ask any questions you want of our legal experts. We hope that you keep them more general, so that everybody can benefit from the questions. But this is your chance. The link's going in the chat. Please come into our legal hotline. Cameras on, smiles ready, and let's get your immigration questions answered. So I see we have a lot of comments going on in the chat. I see you both got a nice compliment. Patricia says, always excited to see the witty immigration team, Mike and Chris. Following closely from Kenya. Well, welcome, Patricia. I also love having the witty immigration team of Mike and Chris. Always makes my morning very, very exciting. So I see there is a question that I don't think I've seen before from Juan. Juan says, how about a writ of mandamus? What is your thought about it? I want to fasten my case using writ of mandamus. What is the writ of mandamus? Mike, I'm going to ask you, what is this and can we use this?
Yeah, so a writ of mandamus is something that is been around for centuries, where a government is supposed to act in a certain way and they do not act. And a writ of mandamus is often used in the immigration field if a case that is supposed to be processed is not in fact processed. So it has absolutely nothing to do with retrogression weights or the visa bulletin or long lines. The scenario we see the most common is in naturalization cases where there's not been action taken within the time frame that is statutorily provided. And you can file a writ that basically says, please do your job. So there are, it's certainly an effective tool, but very, very limited circumstances. And, I don't know one's situation, but if it's just talking about to fasten up fast process, that would not be an appropriate tool. But if there are situations in your case that have not been processed where it should be, you should reach out to your account manager or your attorney and talk to them about that.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Some good information. I had never heard of the writ of mandamus, but that is very interesting. Okay, I see we have a question from Verl. Verl says, I have a Canadian passport. What do I need to do to work as an RN in the US? So it sounds like Verl may be able to avail themselves of the TN visa. Chris, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, did Burrell say he was a Canadian citizen, or did he mention if he was born in Canada or not?
He did not. So let's go through both situations.
Okay, the reason I ask is this. If he's a Canadian citizen, regardless of if he was born in Canada or born in any other country and obtained Canadian citizenship, he can get a TN visa, and a TN visa provides a superhighway into the United States. It can be obtained really quickly if you have the Canadian passport, a U.S. RN NCLEX exam pass evidence, like a U.S. state license, and then the CGF&S visa screen or the competitive CILNI visa worker certificate. As long as you have those three things and you're a Canadian citizen, you can enter on the TN, and that's a pretty simple and straightforward, and Mike's firm and our firm do them all the time. Once you're in the United States, you are also eligible for a green card, and so your employer can sponsor you for a green card. Here's the big thing. Green card retrogression is not based on your country of citizenship, but the country you were born in. And so if you were born in France and happen to have got Canadian citizenship, well, they both fall under the all other category, and so frankly, that's going to have no impact on you. If you were born in the Philippines and you have Canadian citizenship, the all other dates and the Philippine dates in retrogression have moved in lockstep for many years now. I'm not sure that's going to continue, by the way. I think we're going to see a bifurcation of the Philippines and all other, but I just don't think that's going to be a massive difference between the dates. Nonetheless, if you were born in the Philippines and you are a Canadian citizen and you do enter on your TN and you pursue a green card in the United States, you would go under the EB3 Philippines track, not the EB3 Canadian track. And then the big one, of course, is if you were born in India and you're a Canadian citizen, you can get that very fast TN visa. That's great. You can come in the United States very quickly. Unfortunately, you're still going to be subject to the 12-ish year retrogression for EB3s, which is unfortunately true.
Okay, so Verl, there you have it. You have a couple of questions you need to answer, but a couple of things to consider when you're considering the TN visa, but that may be a very good option for you, a much faster option. But as we say on these shows, always consult your immigration attorney. They know what they are doing. They are the ones who are best to help you. So I see we had a couple of people backstage. Please make sure if you join backstage to join the legal hotline that you make sure you stay backstage. We are going to get to you. I know that there's lots of people trying to get in. And if you don't get in the first try, just keep trying and make sure you hang out while we are answering other questions. So I see a question. We're getting a lot. We're just gonna go with it. We're going back to the visa bulletin. I know it's hard to give predictions, but I see quite a couple of questions from nurses. Chris is saying, for our experts, can you give your personal prediction for October of 2024 when the new open? Like an estimate of how much it will jump in the dates. I don't know if either of you would like to even tackle this one, but what would even be your estimate?
Sure. I thought about it a lot last night because I knew this was going to come up.
Yep.
So I went outside and I counted the leaves on one of my new trees. And I came up with 117. So I'm going to go with January 17th is the date it's going to move to.
That sounds like an extremely logical prediction. It
Absolutely.
makes a lot of sense. I understand that one.
Okay.
What about you, Chris?
Mike uses the same technique that the State Department does, so this is pretty flawless. But yeah, I think something like January of 23, that sounds like a very good prediction to me.
All right. Well, I guess we will all have to wait until October to find out what the State Department is going to be doing. Hard to give visa bulletin predictions. We never know, but we just cross our fingers. And as we have said on this show, and as we said earlier today, you want to wait wisely. You want to make sure that while you are during this waiting period, you are getting filed. Get filed ASAP. AMN Healthcare on both our staffing and direct hire side can file for you right away. You can apply at our website, amnhealthcare.com/international, and our recruiters will help you. And while you are waiting, make sure that you are doing everything you can to up your skills, stay positive, all of the things that we talked about earlier in the show with our recruitment manager, Joy. So some good advice there. All right, so we are going to go back to the chat. Let's see, we have got lots of questions. We have a question from Richard. Richard says, now that there is retrogression, is the exempt visa still a great option for nurses, despite that some nurses are getting denied for this type of visa? Chris, can you speak to this one?
Yeah, so, the H-1 cap exempt visa is a great option for nurses. Unfortunately, what we've seen in the industry is last summer, fall, we saw a lot of health systems in the United States and healthcare employers pivot to filing a lot of H-1Bs for registered nurses. And there was an enormous amount of success until early this year, the last, I don't know, maybe 2 months or so. We've seen the RFE rates just skyrocket. We've seen the denial rates just skyrocket. Why has that happened? I wish I could tell you. I think the USCIS believed that this was a good program, and they approved, even at our office, I don't know, 100 plus of these types of visas, and now we're seeing high rates of RFEs and denials. I think it's a hard visa to obtain, but what's frustrating is that the industry saw many H-1Bs get approved, and now we're seeing them not approved. I think this issue is probably ripe for litigation. I'd like to see some companies step forward and file lawsuits. I'm aware of at least one or two that are being considered, and so we may see something like that in the future. But right now, it's a very difficult. It was already difficult, but there, in my opinion, a number of situations in healthcare and in hospital systems where the H-1B is an appropriate visa. Something like 60+% of all U.S. nurse graduates right now are bachelor degree holders, which is ultimately the standard, which necessarily means that there's a good segment of the U.S. population that believes that there's value to the bachelor's degree. And so the fact that we've gone from 100% approval to 90% denial is extremely frustrating because the cases are virtually identical.
That is very interesting. Do you have any thoughts or assumptions or indications why there's been this switch?
Yeah, I just think more eyes get on cases at USCIS as USCIS gets higher volume. But candidly, I don't have faith in the USCIS's ability to adjudicate this. I'm not sure. I'm not sure they really understand this, other than in the most bluntest terms. And so I think it's just a failure of the U.S. immigration system to fully appreciate what's going on here. And also, and this is really probably the problem, the USCIS, once cases get at scale, they make assumptions about industries. We've seen it with staffing companies, Mike and I, both in healthcare and in other industries that have staffing like IT, that are just unfounded. They're more beliefs than legal analysis.
Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing, Chris. We'll definitely keep our eyes on that, keep tabs on that. Let's take some more questions from the chat. I see we have lots of questions in the chat. We also have the link to our legal hotline. So if you would like to come on and ask your question live, please make sure to click on that link. Come on camera with your big smile, and we are excited to take your question. So we have a question from Cecile. Mike, we're going to turn to you. Cecile says, hello, can I get a visa if I only passed the CGFNS and got my visa screen? What would be your advice to Cecile?
So it doesn't sound like she's passed NCLEX. She said she passed the CGFNS exam.
Exam, yep.
So ultimately, you're going to need the NCLEX exam to get a license and work. So I can't imagine anyone moving forward without NCLEX passage in today's climate. So I think we might need to know more as to why she hasn't taken the NCLEX, or if she has she failed it, or is she in a country that doesn't offer the NCLEX, and so she couldn't go someplace to take the NCLEX, and which is why she chose to do the CGF&S exam. So I think we need a little more information. But generally speaking, today you're going to need the NCLEX exam. I'm certainly not aware of any of my hospital clients that would pursue a candidate who hasn't not yet passed the NCLEX. So the fact that it might legally be able to be done is not the same thing.
Okay, so some advice for you there, Cecile. We're going to need some more information, and we are definitely going to want to consider passing the NCLEX, because that is really your golden ticket. That is really your first step to starting this whole process. So I see we have some people backstage that are ready here and waiting to ask questions. Hi, Crystalline. How are you?
Hello, good morning.
Where are you talking to us from?
I'm from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
Oh, well, hello from Saudi Arabia. We are so happy to have you on today. What is your question for our legal experts?
Hello, good morning, Sir Chris and Sir Mike. I would like to ask about, I'm having an 18-year-old dependent. A lot of here says that they are telling, once I submitted my document, it will start either in A140 or in D260. I just want to know where exactly that my daughter will be safe, that I can bring her with me if retrogression will be uplift.
Okay. So do you have an I-140 filed yet?
I'm still on the process right now.
Okay. So the rule is children age out at 21. Okay. The amount of time your I-140 is processing gets added to your child's 21st birthday. So when the government considers them 21, would be whatever their birth date is, plus the amount of time your I-140 is processing. So I would, unless you have an earlier priority date. Do you have an old priority date from anything previous? No.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. Then I would file your I-140 under regular processing.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Not premium. Even if the company offers you premium, I would probably say no. And then I personally think, what's your country of birth?
Philippines, sir.
Okay. I personally think that 3 years is going to be plenty of time to get your daughter here with you.
Okay, sir. It would be safe for me to bring her.
I think so. I think 3 years is fine.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
For coming on and asking your questions. Hopefully you got some good advice from Mike. All right. Thank you, Mike, for taking the question. So if you would like to come on and ask your questions live to our attorney experts, you can come on our legal hotline. The link is in the chat. So I see a question. I think it's probably a follow-up question to our conversation about the NCLEX and the IELTS. Baroa says, do you accept nurses without NCLEX and IELTS to start the journey to come to the United States? So we are going to bring up our success path. Our success path is going to go through all of the steps that you need to come to the United States. I know that it can be very confusing for international nurses who are watching. They're watching our live Q&A. They're seeing all of these different terms, these different acronyms that we're using for getting to the United States. And we want to know, how are we going to actually do it? So the first step is going to be passing the NCLEX. So here at AMN Healthcare, we have brought it down into 7 easy steps. So I think we are finding that graphic, and once we have it, we're going to show it. But you can, oh, there it is. So we have brought it into 7 easy steps. So the first is passing that NCLEX. So as Mike said, this is something the hospitals or the staffing agencies are going to want to see. This is your golden ticket. You need to pass the NCLEX, the nursing exam, in order to start the process. Once you have that NCLEX pass, you can move to step 2, which is where you prepare for the interview. This is where you will get matched with an employer in the United States, whether that's a healthcare facility, if you're doing direct hire, or a staffing agency, if you're going the staffing route. You will get a job offer. You will move to step 3, which is the visa framework. This is where you will either apply for a green card, a TN visa, or as we've talked about, potentially an H-1B visa. You will gather all of your documents. The company should help you figure out exactly what documents you need. Step 4 is the licensing and credentialing. This is where you get your visa screen. This is where you figure out what kind of license endorsement you are going to need based on the state that you may be going to. And then step 5 is the get ready game plan. So this is after your visa has been approved. You are doing your happy dance because you are on your way to the United States. We are going here at AMN Healthcare International. We are going to help you prepare for the transition. You may be doing clinical modules. You will have somebody on your team who will help prepare you in terms of finances, in terms of social support. Somebody's going to be there with you every step of the way. Step 6 is the arrival sequence. This is where you touch down in the United States. Someone should be there to help you, to pick you up from the airport, to take you around the town, see where your new place is. And then step 7 is enjoy and prosper. And this is really our goal and our hope for all of our international nurses here at AMN Healthcare International, to really prosper, enjoy living out your American dream. You've worked hard for it, you deserve it. And that is what we want for all of you. So if you are inspired today and you would like to get filed ASAP, which we say is our best advice, you can apply on our website, amnhealthcare.com/international. And our recruiters, both on the staffing and direct hire side, are ready, waiting, and happy to help you find your perfect match. So don't delay. Get started ASAP. So let's see. We got still lots and lots of questions. We have just a bit of time left. If you would like to come onto our legal hotline, the link is in the chat. You can ask your questions live. Crystalline just got some great expert advice from Mike. So if you would like to get advice, you can click on that link and come on live. All right, so let's see. We have a question from Colette. Chris, we're going to turn to you for this one. Colette is saying, I'm waiting for my physical diploma and NCLEX pass letter to come in the mail. It'll take 6 to 8 weeks. Can the I-140 be filed without my degree or NCLEX letter if I have other proof? So it sounds like Colette has some questions about what documents she's going to need. What would be your message?
Colette, that's a nice question, and I like your image there. You look like a very nice couple there. But in any event, we can't. I'm going to assume for a moment that your employer has what they need to file the I-140, because we often talk about what the nurse needs for the I-140, but there are things that the employer needs, such as a prevailing wage determination to be certified by the U.S. Department of Labor, notice to U.S. employees that the health system or staffing company is interested in filing U.S. workers. Occasionally, we have to do union notification. I'm going to assume all of the employer stuff is done and really just focus on you. The answer is yes, your I-140 can be filed even if you do not have the physical NCLEX pass letter. There are websites out there where you can get verification that your NCLEX has passed, and we have filed cases with a printout from that website showing that you have passed the NCLEX. In terms of the physical diploma, we will need some proof that you have graduated from the college. So your question implies that you have other proof, and so depending on what that is, perhaps a transcript that says you have graduated, that might be enough. And often people can download transcripts right from their college's website. So good luck and congratulations, Colette.
Okay, there you go, Colette. Thanks for the information, Chris. I see we got lots more questions coming in, so we are going to try to get to as many as we can. So Mike, Patience has a question for you. Patience says, how long does this waiting last? I was told my I-140 was filed in February of 2024, and I've not heard anything about it yet. How do I know my priority date? I signed the contract in July of 2022. So I guess she would like to know, one, how do you figure out your priority dates? And two, how long generally does the process take?
Okay, patients, the priority date is the date your I-140 was filed. So if you were filed in February 2024, then your priority date is going to be February 2024. I'm assuming your case was not filed under premium processing because if you had, you would have heard something in March. And I'm not recommending to my clients for premium processing unless there are an old priority date to recapture. So right now, regular processing, I think, is running about 8 to 10 months. So no reason to expect anything until sometime late this fall. Keep in mind that while your I-140 is processing, you are moving forward in the line, the retrogression line, in the queue, the priority date. So your priority date's moving forward, which is why premium processing is irrelevant. As long as the priority date is moving forward and the line of retrogression is longer than the regular processing time, there's no reason to premium your case. I think you're in a situation where you've got probably until fall, before you can get approved. And then as far as the next step in your case, you filed in February 2024. If you are overseas, then you're going to be looking at the final action date chart, the date that Chris talked about earlier, which is in November 2022. I'm predicting about roughly 2 years. If you're in the US and you're looking to file a 485, you look at the other chart, which is the date for filing chart, which is February 2023. I'd say you've got at least a year, maybe more, before that date becomes current and you could file in the US. So it's a little more complicated if you're in the US, a lot more issues as to your current status and things like that. But if you're overseas, you've done what you need to do, and now you're just on a waiting path. And it goes back to the comments we've made earlier about waiting wisely while you're overseas.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I see patients sent a follow-up that she is an adjustment of status case and she is in Michigan. So hopefully she might have a little bit more complicated, but maybe a little bit of a shorter time, it sounds like, of waiting. So I guess we will wait and see for you patients, but our fingers are crossed for you, and hopefully you got some good advice there from Attorney Mike. All right, Chris, we have a question from Maxwell. Maxwell says, what happens if the IELTS expire during the course of the whole process? Do you resit the IELTS or use the same?
Yeah, good question. So it depends. Good lawyer answer, right? So broadly speaking, the IELTS is used in the U.S. immigration process for the visa screen. So if you submit your IELTS to CGFNS or CILNY, they will issue the visa screen, or what CILNY calls the healthcare worker certificate. They'll issue that for 5 years. Even if your IELTS expires midway through that visa screen period, your visa screen actually remains valid. So the key is to get that visa screen prior to the expiration of your IELTS. There also may be some states, U.S. states, for your nursing license that require an IELTS or English fluency exam. And so it's impossible to know what each state licensing rule is, but my experience is they tend to work the same, which is if you filed for your license prior to the expiration of your English fluency exam, your IELTS, that license remains valid. So the key is get your license going and get your visa screen going prior to the expiry of your IELTS, and you should probably be fine.
So is it right to say that the IELTS has a 2-year timeline, Chris?
Yeah, the IELTS does have an expiration, and so that's why you want to file that visa screen within that 2-year window. And
that visa screen has a 5-year, correct?
Right. So if you pass IELTS now in May of 24, and then you got your visa screen issued in May of 25, even though your IELTS would expire in May of 26, your visa screen would actually go all the way until 2029, I think.
And what happens if your visa screen?
Sorry?
we get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Lawyers aren't known for the math. And what happens if your visa screen expires?
Yeah, you do need a visa screen at all times when you are applying for any immigration benefit. So if you, for instance, have an H-1B, we had an earlier question about an H-1B, you need that visa screen to be valid during the duration of your H-1B, including if you need an H-1 extension a year or 2 or 3 down the road. You always need to have a valid visa screen up until the time that you become a U.S. permanent resident, i.e. you get a U.S. green card. For any time before that, you need to have a valid active visa screen.
Okay. So you might need to get another visa screen, but the best advice would be to get that visa screen so that your English fluency exam will be valid for longer.
That's it. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Chris. So let's see. I see we have a question from Zoya. Mike, we're going to turn to you. Zoya says, I want to know if 2 agencies can file for 1 person at the same time. That's an interesting question. I haven't heard that one before. I'm curious about the answer.
Yeah, so there's a couple different issues. There's immigration issues, and then there are contractual issues, and then frankly, probably some ethical and morality issues too. But on an immigration side, yes, you can be filed by 2 different employers, and it is not problematic. Obviously the USCIS will know that you filed from 2 different employers, and they'll know that you can't work for 2 different employers. So at some point in the process, you're going to have to ultimately pick. You likely have contractual issues. Most employers are going to require you to sign some sort of contract. And part of that contract is the fact that you're promising them you're going to work for them. And if you are then turning around and signing another contract with someone else, you are basically lying to the first one and then lying to the second one. So it would generally be frowned upon from a contractual perspective. But legally, from an immigration only perspective, it can be done.
Okay, interesting. So it can be done, but as we have talked about on these previous shows, when you enter into a contract, you should treat it like a marriage. And just like you would any marriage, you are making a commitment to the employer, and the employer is making a commitment to you. And you want to make sure that you are being honest and transparent and fair with that employer. So while you may be able to do something, you may not want to do something because, you know, it's like a contractual obligation. It's like a marriage, and you are agreeing to go through this process together. So you want to keep that in mind as you are going through this processing. All right. So some good advice.
Danielle, let me add one other thing. You have to disclose that on your I-140 filing. So it would be something you ultimately could not keep from the second employer. So you would disclose it. And I will tell you this personally, my hospitals, I can guarantee you will drop you if you have already signed with someone else without getting a release from them.
That makes sense. So there is some good advice for you there, Zoya. Your best option, your best method would be to pick the employer that is going to fit you and your processing the best, and to move forward with your commitment, just like you would with a marriage, committed to that one employer. Have that one filing because it is going to come out, and that would be our best piece of advice. Thank you, Mike. So we have a follow-up question, Chris, to the visa screen question. Chris is asking, for those entering as EB3 immigrant visa, does the visa screen need to be valid until the green card is issued?
As long as the visa screen is valid upon entry into the United States, that's good enough. You don't actually have to physically have the green card. So,
okay.
So that's essentially at the airport. It has to be valid until the plane lands and you proceed through U.S. immigration.
Okay, so it has to be valid to when you actually come to the United States, but you don't need to wait until you actually get the physical green card.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is you do get the physical green card normally just a few weeks after you enter, so it's not dramatically different. But but strictly speaking, once you enter the United States, you are a U.S. permanent resident. You are a U.S. green card holder, and you just physically do not have the green card. Really, the document itself, the card itself, is really evidence of your permanent residency. It's not your permanent residency.
Okay, so some small nuances, but some good information to keep in mind. So Mike, I see a question from Ryan. So I think this may be one of the last questions we're going to take because we're coming up on time. So Ryan is asking, is it okay for me to go back to Saudi while waiting for the visa bulletin to be current? My priority date is February 23, 2024. I know probably some questions we need answered, but generally, if we make some assumptions, what do you think about Ryan's question?
Yeah, no. So the easy answer is sure. You can go work anywhere you want to. And back to our comments about keeping yourself ready, if the position in Saudi is a bedside position and you're currently in a situation where you don't have a bedside opportunity, then probably most agencies and employers would tell you we'd prefer you to go back to Saudi. You do have to keep in mind a couple things. How long is your Saudi contract going to be? Is it a 2-year contract? Is it a 3-year contract? You need to work with your account manager at your U.S. Agency to make sure that they understand that. What consulate are you going to pick? Are you picking because your contract in Saudi is only going to be a year and you're going to go back to your home country, so you're still going to pick your home country as your consulate process, or are you going to pick Saudi because the fact that you're going to be there for 3 years or whatever the case may be? So there are some questions that need to be answered, but the short answer is yes, you definitely can go take an overseas assignment while you're waiting for a priority date to become current, and often that is a wise decision.
Okay, well, there you go, Ryan. So some good news for you. You can travel to Saudi, and as we have been talking about, what are you going to do during that period to wait wisely? So that may be a good idea for you. So we have time for just one more question. Chris, we have a question from Tin. Tin is asking, I'm an RN born in the Philippines and married to an EU citizen. Can I use my spouse's citizenship for my EB3 application?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is yes. We have something in U.S. immigration. It's a bit of an unusual one, but it is called cross-chargeability. And what it means is if there's a married couple, we are allowed to choose for purposes of retrogression the husband or wife who has the more favorable retrogression date, even if the trailing spouse is the one with the more favorable date. So, for example, if you are an Indian national and you are a nurse and you've been offered a job in the United States, but you are married to a Swiss, your partner's from Switzerland, which gets the all other date, which is the most favorable date, even though you, the Indian national, are the primary I-140 beneficiary, believe it or not, we get to use your Swiss spouse's priority date for purposes of retrogression, which means instead of having a 12-year retrogression, you'd have an 18-month retrogression.
Very interesting. So it might matter who you marry for reasons much further than you even think. So cross-chargeability, that was the name of the term, correct?
Yep.
All right. So some good info for you there, Tin. So cross-chargeability may be available to you. All right. So we are coming up on time and we have our clinical corner segment coming up. So I wanted to say thank you to Chris and Mike for your time. Once again, we love having you both on once a month to come answer all of our crazy, interesting, useful questions that pop up. Thank you so much. As the comments have been said, you are both our witty immigration experts, and we appreciate your time to give us your expert advice. So thank you both very much.
Thanks,
All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye. See you, Mike.
All right. Bye-bye, Chris and Mike. So we are going to be bringing on Holly and Kelly for our clinical corner next. Good morning, Holly and Kelly. How are you both today?
Good morning, Danielle. Doing great.
Danielle. So excited to have you both on for the clinical corner, where we share tips and tricks, things you need to know about coming to the United States from a clinical perspective. And we are very excited to see what you have for us today. So I'm going to hand it over to the two of you.
All right. Thanks, Danielle. We're happy to be here and share some additional information and follow up to some of our other segments. I first want to give Kelly a chance to introduce herself. So Kelly, if you would just share a little bit of who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here with you all today. My name is Kelly Elwood, and I am a clinical manager at AMN International. A little bit very briefly about me. My healthcare journey has been kind of an evolution over the years. I started my time working in a UAP role as a nursing assistant, as we call them in my hospital, both in pediatrics and in adults, and then moved to my nursing role after passing the NCLEX. I functioned in that UAP role, worked permanent nights, went to school during the day, had a lot more energy back then, but it was worth the struggle for sure. And my time as a nurse, I spent in a few different areas: med-surg, telemetry, and on transplant HDU, or progressive care. Also worked as a charge nurse, preceptor, and nurse manager during the COVID pandemic, which I'm sure you can all empathize changed our healthcare infrastructure around the world. And then I found my current role supporting international nurses here at AMN that I love so much. And it has been just a beautiful blend of my deepest personal passion, which is traveling and exploring the world. And I've learned just so much about my nurses and about healthcare. And I'm really excited to talk with you all today.
Kelly, we're really glad you're here with us today. Thank you so much. And I want to, so the topic that we're going to share today is about building relationships with the care team. And the first thing that we probably want to discuss is who are the members of the care team and why do we need to build a relationship with them? What do you think?
So your care team is going to have a lot of different members, and also it will depend on the unit, the ward, or the department that you're working in. However, I would say some of the most common team members that we see are that UAP or nursing aide that I had functioned in that role, but also your physicians. You're going to have a different blend of all of the tiers of physician levels. So your attendings and fellows, residents, interns, your medical students, and then your physician extenders or your advanced practice providers. So your PAs, which are your physician's assistants, your nurse practitioners, and then you're also going to have a big blend of your support therapist roles like respiratory therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. And also at the core of that, we always remember the patient and the family. So they are a part of this care team, this big multidisciplinary group of people who are driving the care of that patient. And I think that's kind of where this relationship building kind of comes into my mind, since we know the core of the care model is the patient and the family. And we know that there are so many decisions that are involved in taking care of each and every patient throughout that duration of their hospital stay. Mm-hmm. So I think it becomes really important to know the roles of all of your team members and also to be comfortable communicating with them, because we want that patient safety to be there and we want the patient to have a really seamless experience when they're with us and they're getting their medical care. So that clear communication, that mutual respect, and the discussion in that care team is really crucial, just to make sure that those patient outcomes are really, really, the best they can be and the safest they can be.
All right. So let's talk specifically about the nurse tech and the nurse aide relationship, with a nurse being sort of the leader of the two. Do you have any experience that you use to help guide nurses when they're navigating this relationship?
Absolutely. So in working in that UAP role for a few years prior to graduating nursing school, it has given me a lot of perspective from both sides. And I've had a lot of positive experiences and also some challenges. And one big pearl of wisdom that I like to provide to my nurses when I'm supporting them is really to build relationships with your nursing aides at the beginning of each and every shift, especially when you are new and you're still learning who everyone is and what they do. And what I mean by building that relationship is clocking in finding out who your UAP team members are that are supporting you. Go to them, say, hi, how are you? Let's huddle up for a few minutes. So for example, if Holly and I were working together, hey, Holly, I see that you have patient rooms 1 through 6 with me. I'm glad that we're working together. Please let me know if you can help me, or if I can help you, I should say, with anything throughout our shift today, offering that extension of your assistance. And I think something as simple as that introduction really sets you up for your shift and lets that nursing assistant know, or that UAP know, that you're here to help them too, and that the tasks that need to get done for that patient are both of your responsibilities, not just simply UAP or nursing assistant work. So I think that's where that respect builds. It starts from those simple interactions, and then you're going to see trust form over time, and then you'll be, bonded with your new teammate, and you both will be able to lean on one another.
And sometimes just taking a moment to introduce yourself to someone, especially if you haven't worked with them very often, sort of setting the tone for the day, that really starts things the right way. So I've also done patient care tech role, and I found that the nurses that I love to work with were the ones who took that couple of minutes just to come and see me, connect, and let's talk about what the plan for the day is. So I appreciate that perspective being shared with the group that's on with us today. So let's talk just a little bit, build on that. How do we build a relationship? We talked about, you got to find these team members and make sure that they know who you are and what you look like and what's the plan. Is there anything else that you would say helps to sort of build that relationship?
I think there are so many factors. I would say one of the most supportive environments of learned experience that I had worked in were where us nursing assistants would come in for the beginning of our shift, and we would immediately sit down and huddle with our charge nurse or the nurses and get a full report, abbreviated to what your role needs to know, but a full report on your patient assignment. And when I was trained to become a nursing assistant, I was not trained that report was this big, beautiful part of our job. I thought, I don't have a nursing degree. Maybe this is, way over my head. But what I found was the nurses taking that time to talk to us nursing assistants like we were part of the team. We were important. We were acknowledged and seen for our role in the healthcare puzzle. We had this important role and piece of a job to do. It really, really helped build that respect. I think when you allow your nursing assistants to kind of come in and just do their own thing, and you don't acknowledge what they're contributing to your healthcare team, it can be very easy to get siloed or to work kind of in a bubble where you're not really working together, and you think your work is yours and their work is theirs, when in reality, we're working together for the same goal.
That is a perfect thing to end this segment on, Kelly. Thank you so much. Remember that everyone brings value, and our healthcare team truly does have a lot of eyes and ears. And if you utilize those to the fullest extent, the patient has the best experience and hopefully the best outcomes. I would ask that you join us for the LaFora Talk Show that's coming up next month, where we're going to do an even deeper dive into this topic and some other aspects of communication with the team and delegation. Handing it back to you, Danielle.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Kelly. It's nice to see a fresh face on our show for the Clinical Corner. So thank you so much, Kelly, for joining us and giving us some good tips, some good things to think about. And as always, Holly, you're a show veteran, I would say. So thank you for coming on and sharing some good tips. I know our nurses really appreciate the Clinical Corner and all of the advice that you both have given here today. So thank you both so much for being on.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. So it has come to the end of our show. Thank you, everybody who has joined us today, for submitting all of your different questions, for hearing our wise words from Joy, our recruitment manager, our legal hotline with our expert immigration attorneys, and the Clinical Corner with our clinical educators, Kelly and Holly. Hopefully you have learned something interesting and new and exciting today. If it has inspired you to apply, now is the time. We are taking applications. We are filing nurses. Apply at amnhealthcare.com/international. Here at AMN Healthcare, we are the only company in the United States to offer both staffing through O'Grady Payton and direct hire through Kinetics USA. So you have both options available to you. You can apply on our website, and our recruiters will help you figure out what is going to be the right match for you. So let's take a look at our upcoming shows for the rest of the month. So we have our Onwards and Upwards shows from 7 to 8 Pacific time, which will be on May 31st, the Onwards and Upwards show. On June 14th, we have an immigration Q&A. On June 28th, we have a Nurses Month special. I think this might be a little bit of an older schedule since Nurses Month is in May. So you guys will have to wait and see what is going to come up for May. We're going to keep it a little bit of a surprise, I guess. But we want to hear from you. What shows do you want to see upcoming? Put in the chat what you would like us to cover. I know we cover a lot of information, but we want to make sure it's useful for our nurses. That is our main goal. We want to make sure that we are helping you through this process. We know it can be confusing. We want to make sure that we are giving you all the information you're looking for. We also have our AMN Academy, which will be every Monday at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with our partners iPass 9.09er and Aspire RN. These are free classes, everybody, every Monday at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you have not taken your NCLEX or passed your English exam, make sure to avail yourself of these free classes. So once again, I am your host, Danielle Friedman, here with AMN Healthcare International. If you have been inspired by our show today and would like to apply, our recruiters are on hand. They're ready and waiting. Once again, that link is amnhealthcare.com/international, and we would love to help you find your perfect match to your American dream. So happy Nurses Month to everybody. Thank you for joining us today, Onwards and Upwards, and we have a special video message to share with you from the AMN Healthcare team. Bye-bye, everybody.
To all of our amazing international nurses, I'm Sinead Carberry. I'm President of International Staffing Solutions for AMN Healthcare. This week, on Nurses Week, whether you're a Kinetics nurse or an O'Grady Payton International nurse, you're part of our AMN Healthcare family. We wanted to take a moment to wish you a very happy Nurses Day. Thank you for your kindness and compassion.
I'd like to thank all the international nurses that provide great patient care.
Sa lahat ng mga bayani na walang sawang nagsakripisyo kahit saan man sa mundo.
Muito obrigado por todo o seu trabalho, carinho e amor para pacientes no mundo inteiro.
Your hard work, your dedication, your love, and your passion.
Garav Mahagat Askak Rosa Ianantu.
Salamat sa inyong dedikasyon sa pag-alagad o pag-atiman sa atong mga kaigsuonan.
Thank you for all that you do for your patients, families.
What you put in each and every day, it doesn't go unnoticed.
Mabuhay kayong lahat.
Thank you.
Herzlichen Glückwunsch zum Internationalen Tag der Krankenschwestern.
Feliz Dia Internacional do Enfermeiro.
La Internacional na Nalsri Fui Washagat.
Feliz Dia de la Enfermera Internacional.
Happy
International Nurses Day.